Hi, my name's Natalie, and I am a pediatric occupational therapist and also the mother of a child who has a pathological demand avoidance diagnosis. Now, if you are not familiar with PDA, it basically means that any kind of demand can trigger or activate the nervous system. And so parenting a child who has this kind of presentation, or more like an oppositional defiance presentation, can be really challenging. Now, in addition to that, any parent who has a child with neurodivergence has a lot of challenges that innately come with that. A lot of it can also be around being able to advocate for your child or understand what your child needs instead of looking at everything like a behavior. So using a overall low demand approach to parenting can really help. Now, here's where I come in. I'm here to talk to you today about this app called Thistle that I have been helping to create to support parents who have neurodivergent children. And what the app does is it takes data that the parent enters about their child. It could be anything from behavior, outings, sleep, regulation, and it compiles it in a way that it spits back out and gives the parent some subtle suggestions around, hey, maybe try this. Other parents have tried that. It looks like here's the pattern over this past week with regards to X, Y, and Z. So it can be really, really helpful for parents in a really gentle way. And it's all using low demand parenting. So I'm there as a consultant for this. I specialize in regulation and sensory processing, so that's kind of where I come in. Plus I have the background also of parenting a neurodivergent child. The other two creators who are co-creating this app have a child as well who has a PDA diagnosis. So we are all very familiar with kind of the ins and outs of what it's like to parent a neurodivergent child. So Thistle, I'm going to talk a little bit more about sort of the ins and outs of it right now. Okay, so let's talk about what Thistle is. Thistle is an app that allows you to put in information about your day, about your child, about your family, about how you feel as a parent when you're parenting this child. And then it comes up with these daily summaries. So it takes all your information, boop, 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 puts it into a pattern, and then spits it back to you. Like, hey, here's what I noticed about your child's sleep. Here's what they were doing with their food. Here's how they did at school. Here are these meltdowns that happened. And then also it suggests, like, here's a few low demand parenting approaches that other parents have used, but also make sure you trust your intuition. You're the one there. You can read the room. You know your child best, right? Which I love. I love that part of it. Okay, so every day you log, you put in information, and then the next day it comes up with like, hey, here's the summary from yesterday, which is really, really helpful. At the end of the week, if you've done 3 or more summaries, it comes up with this weekly summary. So it's like at the beginning of the week, your child was like this. You experienced this. In the middle of the week, it was kind of like this. And then at the end of the week, this happened. Here's all the outings that you had. Here's how the sleep went. Here's the autonomy that your child was looking for. Here are the patterned behaviors that you saw as a parent from your child, right? I find this extremely helpful because as a parent of a PDA child, I usually only remember the bad things that have happened. I remember like the growling and the kicking and the fights and I couldn't do this with him because it was like an extreme PDA day, right? That seems to shadow all of the good stuff that also happened. And so when I'm trying to look back at my week, I'm like a goldfish. I can't remember 5 minutes ago what happened with my child, let alone like 6 days ago, right? So to have something that's like, oh, hey, here on Monday, this happened. Here's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm like, okay. And also it takes a lot of pressure off of me because I have a hard time remembering anything, let alone like when a therapist asks me or like a partner asks me, hey, what happened with the kid today? I'm like, I actually have no idea. I'm just trying to survive this moment in this hour, right? So I get a lot of that. I feel like a lot of the time that's me as a parent. So what I like about it is I open Thistle, I type in boop, 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 boop. I'll give an example. My child is growling. I don't know why. I am in this mindset now, even though I'm this expert, this pediatric occupational therapist expert who has a PDA child, of being like, okay, you're old enough now that you really shouldn't be growling at me or people, right? So that's kind of my mindset. So I type it in, I'm frustrated. I'm like, why is this kid growling? I don't understand. No idea. I fed him, he stopped growling, whatever. Next day, Thistle comes back and it's like, hey, maybe the growling is because he's hungry and he's maxed out on using his words because it's at the end of the day and he's had a lot of demands placed on him. Maybe you could just put out a snack without saying something. Okay, so I do it. It works, right? The child growls again the next day, different time, during a transition. Put it in. Hey, Maybe there's a lot of demands going on when you're asking your child to put on their boots, coat, hat, and get in the car. It's 4 demands just right off the top of my head. Maybe that feels like a lot, so that they start to growl to show their own autonomy. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So things that I do not see, because in the moment I'm frustrated, triggered, whatever it is, which I feel like as parents, a lot of time it's so hard with children who are neurodivergent, right? To not look at it as a behavior, just like, get in the car. And they're like, that's like 2 demands, so hard pass on that. So it takes all this and it puts it into this really nice summary that doesn't feel like it's pressuring me into doing anything. It doesn't feel like it's telling me to do anything, which I love. It's like, hey, you're there, trust your instinct. And also, this might be an approach that might help you from this low demand parenting style, or like, here's the pattern. We've had 3 days now of him growling. Looks like he growls when he's hungry and during transitions. I'm like, oh, okay. So now what I've been able to do with that information is that now when my child is growling at me, I'm like, is he hungry or are we going somewhere? And how can I just tell him that he's safe and loved and kind of get through that moment and give him the autonomy that actually he's searching for, even though he's not asking for it directly and using his words. So that's really what's been super, super helpful for me. The other thing is that you're able to share these daily summaries and these weekly summaries with whoever you want, like therapists, professionals. You know, how many times has someone been like, how was your child's day today? And you're like, I have no idea. Or how was the week? And you're like, well, actually, I think it was a pretty terrible week. But then actually looking back at the patterns, your child got out of the house every day. Your child had 2 play dates that were mildly successful. Your child ate a new food. Like there's always things, always, that are going to be good and some things that are not going to be as great, right? So having something else, divide it up, all your information up, and put it into patterns for you in different categories like sleep, eating, autonomy, behaviors, outing, like whatever you're putting in, it kind of spits it back out into categories, right? So essentially what you want to know about your child and what's important to you is what you're going to write down, and then it comes back to you at the end in a summary. So I love that. And then I can also just send it to another parent. I can send it to a caregiver, a therapist, professional, school, whatever it is, right? So not only is it helping me as a parent, but it also helps me advocate for my child, because I think as parents of neurodivergent kids, it's very challenging to advocate for your child, especially when you have a child with PDA, because it does look like a behavioral choice. So when you have something that's already put into categories and it's already there, like, hey, this child's been growling a lot. So if you see this, it's actually more about autonomy than it is him just like growling at you because he feels like he should growl at you. Although, I mean, I'm sure growling is actually pretty fun to do at people, and sometimes I wish I could do that, but that's completely besides the point. So Thistle gives these daily summaries, gives these weekly summaries. You can send it to other people in your life who would benefit from that. It comes up with the patterns based on what you put in, and then these suggestions around this low demand parenting, like, hey, parents who have neurodivergent kids have tried this, maybe it's this. Really mild suggestions, but super, super, super helpful about finding these patterns for you that are not obvious, and then giving this like, hey, maybe this is just what he does around a transition and might be more autonomy that he needs. And here are some low demand ways of saying that, or here are some low demand actions that you could do to kind of mitigate the situation. And then you come back and you try it, and then you put in kind of again, you log whatever you want. So I think it's fantastic. There's nothing else like that out there right now, especially for parents who have these neurodivergent kids, and it's not this traditional like, hey, do a rewards chart. It is completely different, and I feel seen and heard, and it's just this pattern, and I feel great using it, and I feel great sending that, because it's not just me being like, hey, when he growls, that's actually just a message that he's overwhelmed. And it's like, it's so hard to advocate for, right? If someone doesn't have a neurodivergent kid, they'd probably look at you and be like, yeah, okay. You can also ask Thistle a specific question like, hey, my child is doing this, what do you think? That could be really helpful too, in this answer of like this low demand way, and also to be able to say, hey, trust your intuition, you're there, you're the parent, you know what you're doing, like it's okay to take space. It's very validating as well, the way that it's designed. So Thistle, it's great, use it, amazing. So part of the reason why Thistle works so well for parents of neurodivergent kids, especially kids with PDA, is that it's been co-created with an occupational therapist. The tone and the answers and everything, the data is run by the occupational therapist as well, for making sure that it is accurate information that's being given to the parents. It's not overstepping. It's not something where it's like, you should do this. It's more of like a gentle suggestion, or other parents have done this, maybe try this. More like it goes through all the data and then it kind of puts it into different categories for you and picks out patterns for you, so that it is easier for you to see what's actually happening with your child, so that then you can make a good parenting decision, or you can make a shift if you wish. Right? The other thing is that it's heavily curated in terms of safety. There's an entire list of words that it is not allowed to say at all. And the child's name is never put out there. Like, all of that is not out in the universe. It's not available. So it's very, very safe in terms of AI goes. And it's not just this AI app where you put in information and it fills in the holes. It's like, we put in information, it's structured data, and then it goes through and finds patterns. Right? So it kind of takes your information and then spits it out in a way that is easier for parents to like look at, remember, use, and then also send to somebody else. So in terms of an AI app, this is the highest quality one that I have seen, and the most helpful for parents that I've seen, because it's not this generic thing. It's really, really curated, and it's really been thought about for, okay, I'm parenting this neurodivergent child with this low demand parenting approach. What are some of the things that I can do? It's based on these theories, like these sensory processing theories, these low demand parenting theories, so that then all of the answers it's giving are suggestions around that, except for this list of words that it is not allowed to say, and your child's name is never out there. So in terms of Thistle, it's a great app. I would totally recommend it. I think it could be so helpful. There's nothing else out there like that. And it's so, so, so great for finding these patterns, giving it back to you in a way that works for parents, especially busy parents of neurodivergent kids, and then allowing you to do whatever you want with it while trusting your own intuition.